Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, at least virtually, and then next year we can come in person. If there's only one seat, I get to come first. I was the first one to say that I want to go, and then Mike can come the following year. Yeah, but today we're going to talk about AutoUpgrade and a deep dive into AutoUpgrade. And with me here today is Mike. And I don't think that he needs any further introduction. He is the upgrade superhero. And now let me flip to the next slide, and I'll give you control, Mike. We are trying to do the presentation from two separate locations, and Mike is remote controlling my computer to flip the slide. So hopefully it works out fine.
Yeah, just because Daniel doesn't like to remote control mine. But because of the delays, but we'll sort that out. So this is, by the way, Daniel, closer to you than I am, because I work south of Munich in Germany, but Daniel is based in the surroundings of Copenhagen in Denmark. And he joined our team 1.5 years ago, and I'm really happy that he is part of our team officially as the database cloud migration product manager. But when you visit Daniel's blog, which I recommend you, then you'll see that Daniel does a lot more, and not cat pictures or food pictures, but a lot more things like AutoUpgrade and all sorts of stuff in the cloud with flashback. And he's also an expert for encryption. So whenever you have questions regarding encryption in regards to upgrades and migrations, Daniel is the man to ask. And for today, and now let me see if I can flip here. Yes, slides are on Daniel's blog, and you find the deep dive slides with a different cover picture on my blog as well already. So feel free to download them there. So dohdatabase.com or mikedietrich.de.com. And we have a third guy who is not here right now, because at this time of the day, I think he should be getting up slowly. It's in the middle of the slide, Rodrigo George. Our newest hire, I would say our newest transfer, actually, if we would be a football club. And we are pretty happy to have him as well. So Rodrigo's blog in the middle, he's working out of Rio in Brazil. Daniel's blog on the right side and mine on the left side. And if you think after these 40 and a bit minutes we'll spend now together, you need more of us, more technical content on our blogs. You'll find, I think, 20 hours almost now recorded technical seminars, and really just technical stuff. Absolutely zero marketing, starting from upgrade to performance, to multi-tenant, to cloud migrations, to use cloud environments just for performance testing, and carry everything back to your on-prem environments, cool features for DBAs, minimal downtime strategies. And our next one, by the way, and you'll find sign up for it on our blogs as well, will be the fallback strategies on 11th of November. So just in case, if you want to learn the newest about downgrades and flashback and all this and backup and recovery strategies, then you may sign up. Now let us start with a little bit of warm-up, release and patching strategy. And first of all, be aware that we make now a distinction between long-term support releases and innovation releases. So 19C will be a long-term support release, or is a long-term support release, and gives you at least 5 years of premier support, and then followed for a minimum of 3 years of extended support. That is the minimum. We'll see finally how long 19C will be under support, but this is the release you all upgrade to. While 21C is an innovation release, and an innovation release gives you a minimum of 2 years premier support, and you see no red bar here. The red bar normally is either extra cost, or you have a ULA agreement with Oracle or an engineered system, then it's included in your license contract. But you see, innovation releases have no such extension. So after a short while, support is over. That means production databases go from long-term to long-term support release. You all go now to 19C, and then you go to the next long-term support release. And this is actually the rule which matters. So this slide is driving you forward. except for Daniel and myself, and maybe Connor a little bit. I see him in the call as well. We enjoy upgrades to some extent, and we do them quite often. But for most of you, it's a recurring task, and it's not real fun. But we push you forward, so you have to go forward. In case you're still on level 204, this is now under market-driven support, which is extra cost, so a little bit on top of your contract. And this is running still for quite a while, over a year now then, until end of 2022. Be aware, 12102, many of you may be on 12102, support is running out, the extended support, in 8 months. So it's not that long anymore. So you must get up. And the reason why you are here is you may be interested how to move forward. 12201, 18, 19, 21. Let me go to the next slide, because one slide I won't read here. If you want to read up later on what all these colors and bars mean, we put it just on a slide, but I won't read that here because we will drill in here into 12.2 and forward. Some of you, actually a few, are still on 12.201. And as we did a little bit of puzzling with the release numbering, we added at no extra cost a thing called limited error correction support. So limited error correction support means that you get still security and severity 1 bug fixes fixed by us. You get release updates, the quarterly patch bundles, at no extra cost. It's included, and it's an extension of the 12.2 support, which would be run out since a while already. 18C, there's game over. So 18C is out of support. And in the new terminology, we would have called 18C most likely an innovation release as well. You see there's no extended support available. And the same 21 is out there, but there is no extended support. It will run until the same end of premier support date as 19C. This is end of April 2024. But as you see, 19C has the extended support. And the next long-term support for release for you will be 23C. We put that in dotted lines on the slide because this is pure fiction. So please don't call us back and say, you had that on the slide. It looked like April 2023. Why isn't it there yet? It will come apparently at some point, and you will move everything from 19C to 23C. That is where your production estate goes, and there will be enough overlap. For 21C, before I forget to say that, you will find it only for Linux, Windows, and HP Itanium, and in the cloud, of course, but not for AIX, not for Intel Solaris, because Intel Solaris life is over with 19C, and not for, Spark. So this will come, the platforms are not de-supported. With 23C, we'll have the full set again. If you want to read it up, the single source of truth node 742060.1 is marked down here on the slide. And so number one reason why I move forward is clearly we push you forward, support is ending. Number two reason to upgrade and to patch is simply, hopefully for most of you, security. And you may have heard of this, and there are tons of stories. I mean, we could make a full presentation of such stories of data breaches, which caused a lot of trouble and cost a lot of money. We have that here on the slide because Larry Ellison really ranted loudly at Open World's stage a few years ago about the Equifax breach. And here the basic story was Apache released an alert. The management decided not to apply the patch for that. And then 2 months after Apache released the alert for struts, Equifax got hacked brutally. I mean, it wouldn't be the first hack where the credit card information got into the hands of bad people. But in this case, the social security number was with it. So almost every US customer of a credit card was affected by that. And just to for a settlement, so to avoid some sort of extra rounds in the court, Equifax for one of the settlements paid $650 million US. And this is not the damage which has happened. This is just for a data breach settlement, which was at this point the largest ever. So just keep that in mind. You must patch, you must upgrade.
Yeah, but my database is not facing the internet. I consider myself completely secure.
Oh, well, these guys in Denmark, I can tell you. Daniel, look, it's not that your database is not facing the internet. It's simply that I sent you an attachment with a nice cat video, and I'm 100% certain you will click on that. It's like my dad who called me when I was on the other side of the world about this video service invoice he's gotten. And I asked him, how do you know? He never visited a platform, he claimed. Yeah, he looked at the attachment. Yeah, of course he did. So don't do that, because everything is spreading in your intranet, because people do these strange things. So it doesn't matter if your database is facing the internet or not. You have to patch. And you have to patch, especially if you find this in your database. So if you select from DBA registry or CDB registry and you find Java VM, you must patch quarterly. There's no way out. Because when you check back the alerts, the security alerts for OJVM, and here we have to extend that slide because we ended in January 2021, but I checked the October one from last week, and there was again a 7.1 risk score OJVM breach fixed in the last patch bundles in October. So the average is something like 7.9. High score, by the way, would be 10. So if you have that in your database, you must go forward. There's no way out. Now, Daniel, I think you would like to explain us how we upgrade, right?
Yes, thank you very much for the warm-up. I feel very comfortable starting to talk about upgrades. To upgrade your database to 19C, that is actually very simple. It's a 4-step process. First, you have to download and install 19C for the reasons that Mike just touched upon. And then very important, you should always download and install the latest release update, put it into the Oracle Home before you do the database upgrade. Once in a while, we find trouble in the upgrade and we put out fixes to the upgrade engine itself. And those fixes come out via the release updates. So it's important that you apply the release update before the upgrade. Then you download and use the latest version of AutoUpgrade. We will show you in a little while how easy that is, even for complex situations. And that's it. Afterwards, you probably need to take care about plan stability, ensuring that one important SQL in your database doesn't run loose. And for that purpose, that's out of scope for today because it's a huge topic. But visit one of the webinars. I think it's the third webinar, which is completely 2 hours about performance stability using SQL plan management, SQL tuning sets, and stuff like that. But for now, let's just focus on upgrade. Before you can upgrade, you must have a database. And that database is running on an old version. If you're running on 11.204 or anything newer than that, you can do a direct upgrade to database 19C. I'm excluding 12.101 here because I seriously hope that no one is using that anymore. But if you find yourself on that or one of the older releases, you cannot upgrade directly to 19C and you have to do an intermediate upgrade. The general rule of thumb is that you should always upgrade as far as possible in the first step when you do intermediate upgrades and then directly to 19C afterwards. So assuming today that we have a database that we can use to directly upgrade to 19C, let's move ahead. Because upgrade involves downtime. And we all know that no one likes downtime, especially not the managers. So here's a little tip that can help you make the downtime window a little shorter. You can save time by gathering statistics in advance. Which statistics? Well, basically it's dictionary and fixed object statistics, but my recommendation to you would be that you gather schema stats on sys and system to ensure that we have everything good to go. There is also a procedure in DBMS stats that you can use for dictionary stats, but I recommend to go with schema stats on sys and system. If you are in a container database and you want to do it in all the containers, you can use catconpl to do it in all of them. If you don't do it in advance, AutoUpgrade will do it for you, but it will do it after the downtime window has started. So you will prolong the downtime window because you have to gather these stats before we do the database upgrade. This is a benchmark we did. We had a container database with around 50 PDBs, and we wanted to see how much time we could save by gathering statistics in advance. In this example, the upgrade ran for around 4 hours in total. But by gathering these dictionary stats and fixed object stats in advance, we could actually knock off 12 minutes of the downtime window with just something simple as that. So it's an easy win, and it doesn't take much. For your very most critical database, so for those very important databases, you can also do a health check before you do the upgrade. I wouldn't recommend to do it on all the databases. That might be too much, but you can use it on those very important databases. You can get the health check script from my Oracle support. It's a very small, lightweight script that you can run in your database while it's open for business. It's non-intrusive, and we will only run a few queries to see if there are any known dictionary corruptions that you should fix before the upgrade. Having checked that, let's go ahead and talk about AutoUpgrade, which is the only recommended way to upgrade your database. We have other methods available that you can use, but our very clear recommendation is to use AutoUpgrade. And Mike, can you take us through the essentials?
Yes, let us start here and get you a quick fly into AutoUpgrade. At first, always download the most recent version from my Oracle support via this Moz node here. Simple reason is you won't find many teams in Oracle who have a more agile release cycle than our AutoUpgrade developers. So every 6 to 10 weeks, we release a new version of AutoUpgrade. In some cases, even we did that overnight to fix an urgent customer issue. And the guys working on that, the team is really keen to extend the tool. So whatever you have on disk, normally the version on Moz is newer than the one you get on disk. Even if you install now 1913, the version on Moz is most likely newer than compared to the one you get with 1913. What you do is when you call it, you check the version and then you compare it to the latest version on Moz. So see here, when you do a java -char AutoUpgrade java -version, it tells you a build date, and compare this to the build date of the download link in Moz. If that is equal, all is good. But if the Moz one is newer than the one on disk, then please download and exchange it. Simply override it. It's only that tool, no other installation steps needed. You simply copy this into your RDBMS admin, even though you could have it somewhere else. But just for consistency and to avoid that tomorrow somebody uses an older version of the tool, apparently, override it with the download from Moz in your RDBMS admin directory. AutoUpgrade is not only, even though we said you must upgrade to 19C, but you can use the same tool for all the other versions. So you see here supported target versions 12.2, 18, 19, and 21. So you could also, just yesterday, I had an email exchange with a customer who has a client which upgrades in 6 months to 12.201 due to application certifications. That can happen. You still can use the same AutoUpgrade tool for that. The only thing you may have to do differently then is you have to specify a different target home. The only task you need to do with AutoUpgrade is that you prepare a config file. And this is the shortest possible version of the config file. Source home, pointing to your source home, target home, pointing to your target home, and the SID of the database you'd like to upgrade. And if you wonder about this UPG1 written in italics at the beginning of each line, that is needed to differentiate between different databases. Because AutoUpgrade can not only just upgrade that database here, in the same config file, you can have 60 other databases. And in order to differentiate, we need a prefix. Whatever you name the prefix is fully up to you. We use UPG1, UPG2, and so on, but you can also name them Connor, Daniel, or Mike. Doesn't matter. Fully up to you. If you don't want to write these 3 lines into a config file, then you can also ask AutoUpgrade to generate a sample file, and it generates a sample config file. I still prefer writing it by myself because the sample config file has so many comments and documentation that it's really hard to see your parameters at the end. But whatever you use, this is the only task you have to do. Then you call AutoUpgrade, and best practices that you call it first with -mode analyze. This is non-intrusive, so it won't write or change anything in your source database, and you can run this as often as you want. But it will examine your database and check if there is something which needs to be fixed before we can upgrade. And it gives you a status log and a status HTML file. So in the status log, we check for this line here marked in red saying, pre-check passed and no manual intervention needed. That means, hey, you're good to go. You can lean back, you can schedule it now for a run tonight, unattended, and tomorrow morning when you return back to your office desk, everything is upgraded. But if you want to dig a bit closer, you check the HTML report. And in the HTML report here, job number 100, because we run and analyze, it gets job number 100 at first, and then the job numbers get increased sequentially. We click on this pre-checks report here, and this brings us to the report. So here we have the report for 4 containers, CDB $root, seed, and the 2 PDBs. In the upper part, we get an overview. This is a 12.2.1 database. It's an enterprise edition with time zone 26. All the components we have are all valid or option off. That is what we want. That's good. Then on the left side, you get the links to all the containers now. And it's very important to watch out for errors, because if it's an error, we have to check if AutoUpgrade can fix it or if you need to fix it. There's a very, very small percentage of errors AutoUpgrade can't fix. So check that. Here we have no error, but let us click on recommended for the CDB $root, and that brings us to this section. So it gives us more details now. You see the line marked in apricot color, dictionary studs. As Daniel explained before, if you do it up front, you save time. Now in this database, it hasn't been done. What happens is, it tells us in the middle of the apricot line, you see fix up available. Yes, that means AutoUpgrade can fix that. It will run and execute dbms gather dictionary studs as part of the upgrade process then, when it fixes everything. But if you desire now and you realize, hey, Daniel told me I can do this by myself, it saves time, then you log into SQL Plus, do it by yourself. Otherwise, AutoUpgrade does it. The second warning here, hidden parameters, fix up available. No. Do you have to do now anything? You don't have to. We tell you that we found underscore parameters in events, and we give you also a list of those, but we don't master you. You know better. We just tell you we found those. Check them carefully. You may want to remove some of them unless your application provider tells you. Did you want to say something, Daniel?
No, just throw them out.
Okay, throw them out. Okay, good. Yes, kick them out. And the reports are there in HTML, text, and JSON format.
So it's a manager, DBA, and developer format.
Yes, yes, exactly. Fully agree here. If you are fine with the analyze run, then the next step will be you run AutoUpgrade now in deploy mode. And deploy will repeat the analyze because there could be a change in between when you run it first and now, and then it will run the fix-ups. So it will do all the fix-ups AutoUpgrade does and then do the upgrade. So you can have a cup of coffee or tea like I here, or you can monitor it because it opens a job console and you type in lsj. This is the most simple command like the Unix ls with a J for job, and it gives you the current information. There's one job running here. If you want to know more what this job 101 is doing, you ask status minus job 101. And it tells you now that it ran the upgrade now already 3 minutes and how long the prefixes have done. Like here, dictionary stats haven't been done. We wasted like 8 minutes on prefix ups. All the logs are mentioned there. And hopefully at the end, and we get also information where the upgrade is currently. So here it runs in the root container, 12%. And PDB seed and PDB free will be upgraded later on in parallel, each of them by 2 workers. Finally, we should finish at some point. Here we finished successfully. And you see also that there's a guaranteed restore point. Daniel will explain something about his GRP in a few minutes. It will do also the recompilation. If you didn't override it, the time zone adjustment, and all other post-upgrade fix-ups like refreshing the dictionary statistics after upgrade. And let's have a quick look into the tool and how it works, because it's no rocket science. Let me show you first the config file. So minimum version, 3 lines, source home, target home, SID. That's it. It's a 12.201 database. Now we call AutoUpgrade, newest version, always the newest version, remember that, with the config file and mode analyze. If you want to type, you have to type very fast because the analyze is quick. LSJ gives me now the job 100. It's in pre-checks. And shortly after it finishes. So it completes successfully. Now I would check the status log file and watch out for this line, manual intervention needed, yes or no. So status log file, quickly have a check. So you see it's 12.201 to 1912, and this line here is important. So that means AutoUpgrade can fix everything it found. Let's kick it off at night with -mode deploy and do an LSJ. You see the job number has increased now to 101. We are again running the analyze and then doing the fix-up. So right now, AutoUpgrade is doing the fix-ups, and then we will speed up because nobody wants to watch an upgrade now for 25 minutes. Let's do an LSJ later on. DB upgrade, database is in upgrade mode. That's good. And a bit more information about the job status minus job 101. It's 5 minutes into the upgrade. Here are the log files. And let us scroll down a bit. We are 10% into the upgrade. That's good. And at some point, it hopefully finishes successfully. Yes, it does. So job completed. Let us connect quickly and check if that wasn't a fake here. Select full version full from VDOL instance. You see it's 1912. Everything had been run fine. And with that, I think Daniel wants to tell you some additional thing.
Yeah, I mean, because it's easy with a config file, but I mean, to some people, it's a text file. It is a little, can we do it in one line? Some people really love one-liners, and you can't. You can. For a very simple upgrade, you can specify the information as environment variables, the SID, home, and target home, and then simply just start AutoUpgrade. Then you don't need a config file. If you have more things to put on, you can still do it as a one-liner. There's a command line option called config values, and you give it a string. And in there, you can simply put all the things that you would put in your config file. You can put that on the command line so that you don't have to create the config file and just go with one line. So I guess it's a matter of preference. It's a lot easier to use the config file, I think, but the other options are available. Then let's look at some more advanced options, because AutoUpgrade can upgrade your database. It's easy, but it also allows you to customize the upgrade. Mike mentioned the prefix UPG1 earlier. We use that because you can put multiple database upgrades into the same config file, and then AutoUpgrade can upgrade all of them at the same time. So if you can have 1, 10, or hundreds of databases that are upgraded at the same time. You use the prefix to differentiate between the various upgrades. If you want that some of the upgrades can only run on a specific server, you can use the upgrade node attribute for that. And in that case, AutoUpgrade will only look at the upgrades that are eligible at that server. P-file. If you have some rubbish in your P-file, you can tell AutoUpgrade to get rid of those rubbish parameters as part of the upgrade, either before, during, or after the upgrade. If your testing shows that you need to set a parameter after the upgrade to solve some sort of issue, you can also add parameters. And you can do it for a single database or for all the databases in the config file. There is a command called del during upgrade p-file, delete during upgrade p-file. And you can then substitute delete with add if you want to add things instead. What you specify there is the path to a text file. And in that text file, you either specify all the parameters that you want to remove, or you specify all the parameters that you want to add with the appropriate values. And then you reference that file in AutoUpgrade. You can do it globally, which means that all the upgrades will add or remove the same parameters, or you could do it specifically for one database only. Then when you have to upgrade the database, we know that the database upgrade is only part of the fun. Typically, there are other things that you need to do. You need to interact with the applications that are using the database. There is backup, there is monitoring, there is alerting, a lot more. AutoUpgrade can fit very well into that because you can execute shell scripts before you start the upgrade and then after the upgrade. So if you want to postpone your backups, if you want to send a message to your monitoring system, if you want to black out in Enterprise Manager or send in some sort of events to the application that is using the database, you can do that. You can tell AutoUpgrade to run a script that can do that for you before the upgrade. And then again, afterwards, you can remove the blackout in Enterprise Manager. You can start a level 0 backup or whatever that you can fit into a shell script. You can do it globally or locally for one single database. And you can use the before or after action to specify the shell script. There we have it. On Unix or Linux, you can use shell scripts. On Windows, it's batch files or PowerShell scripts. And by default, AutoUpgrade will start the script and wait for it to succeed or to complete, but it will not take care of the exit code. So we'll just fire it, start the script up, and when it's done, the upgrade will continue. But if you want that AutoUpgrade should react to the return code, that's also possible. If you want the database upgrade itself to stop if something fails in your scripts, then you can specify that by putting a Y after the file name. There we have it. Then we have restore points. We saw that earlier in the demo that AutoUpgrade told me that there was a guaranteed restore point and that I, as a DBA, should remember to remove that afterwards. By default, the parameter restoration is set to yes. This means that before AutoUpgrade touches anything in your database, it'll create a guaranteed restore point. So no matter what happens during or after the upgrade, you can always roll back by flashing back the database to that guaranteed restore point. In a test database, you might, in a production database, it might be good to drop the guaranteed restore point after the upgrade, after a successful upgrade, because if you forget to remove the guaranteed restore point, eventually the fast recovery will run out of space and the database will come to a halt. So in a production database, it might be wise to tell AutoUpgrade to get rid of the GRP, but in a test environment, you possibly want to keep it because even after a successful upgrade, you can still flash back and repeat the upgrade to try out some new things. You have the flexibility yourself. There are parameters in the config file that controls the behavior. So let's see a little demo of how easy it is to use flashback database. My database here is running 12.2. I have a simple config file. It's very similar to the one we saw before, but notice the parameter drop GRP after upgrade equals no. That's also the default value, but just for the purpose of a demo, I've put it in here as well. And then I start AutoUpgrade right away in deploy mode to do the upgrade. And this is a very fast upgrade. It's a very small database, and it upgrades in just a few seconds. If only regular database upgrades were that fast. So now the database has been upgraded. AutoUpgrade tells me, remember to drop the GRP. But let's look in the database, reset the environment and connect to the database. We can see that it has now been upgraded to 19. So the database has been upgraded. Now our testers find a critical issue. There's something wrong. We need to roll back. We need to restore the database. Use AutoUpgrade with the same config file and the restore command. And now AutoUpgrade will flash back the database to that guaranteed restore point and it'll take care of all the other things that you need to take care of. After a while, the restore completes. Let's just reset the environment and connect to the database to see that we are now back in 12.2. So not only did it take one command to upgrade the database, it also only took one command to roll back the upgrade and use and flashback the database. AutoUpgrade, as I mentioned, takes care of everything. It reestablishes etc ORATAB, it does the clusterware registration, it copies back your SP file, password file, and so forth. There's nothing for you to take care of after you restore with AutoUpgrade. Now, underscore parameters, Mike. I know that's your favorite.
Yes, of course, we love them because they make upgrades so much slower, usually, in many cases. As we said before, we don't master you, but if you want to master your people and not discuss whether this underscore should go away or not, you can also use remove underscore parameters, yes, and it takes out all underscores and events it finds. So, but be careful with that. Then recompilation. Normally, AutoUpgrade will recompile. This is important. If you want to postpone this for whatever reason, because you know better, or you think that recompilation takes too many CPU resources at the same time, could be many reasons, you postpone it and then you do it by yourself afterwards. You tell run util-rp equals no in the config file. Time zone change is done by default, but be aware of it a bit when you test, because if you have really timestamp with time zone data in your database, it may take a bit. Otherwise, it will be very fast. One reason to postpone the time zone upgrade is that you plan to downgrade later on as a fallback strategy, not flashing back like Daniel showed, but maybe downgrade 6 days after the upgrade, after you have seen changes already. And then your source must have either the same time zone file patch in the home than your target, or you can't go backwards. So this could also be a reason to skip the time zone upgrade. And you can always do it by yourself later on with the scripts. They are still in RDB-admin. And then my colleagues or our colleagues added something we like a lot, because we like to tweak the tiny little screws. And you can pass on and influence the parallel degree and many other things in AutoUpgrade. Because underneath the covers, it still uses cutctlpl, the parallel upgrade we invented with 12.101. And you can tweak it because AutoUpgrade has some embedded defaults and it doesn't want to discuss that with you. The tool knows. But if you think you know better, then you can pass on options like, for instance, the parallel degree minus lowercase n, which then decides how many pluggable databases will be upgraded in parallel, or minus uppercase n, how many workers work for each pluggable database. And there's one which is not on the slide, which may be useful for upgrades to 21C if you plan and test this, is minus T for the traditional upgrade, because there's a new upgrade technique by default for PDBs in 21C. And Daniel, will you quickly go over this benchmark you did?
Yes, because when we got the opportunity to tweak the parallel options with AutoUpgrade, we did a test. We took a bare metal system in OCI with 16 OCPUs, tons of memory, and super fast disks. We created a container database with 52 PDBs, and we gave the database a CPU count of 32. A lot of SGA and PGA and all the components in the database. And then we tried upgrading from 12.102 to 19. And this is a graph of the CPU utilization over the around 4 hours that the upgrade ran. And I mean, ideally, the utilization should be around 80–90%. That would be that will give us the best bang for our bucks. That will utilize the CPU, so the upgrade will run faster. So everything below the green line, that's just waste. So what did we try out? By default, AutoUpgrade uses the CPU count to distribute the parallel processes between the upgrades of the various pluggable databases. It'll use 8 by default on root and then 2 by default on all the PDBs and then scale it out. When we ran it with the default setting, that's the upper graph, there is a lot of waste when we are upgrading the PDBs because it doesn't, the upgrade doesn't scale linear when you add more CPUs. So since we have a lot of CPUs that are sitting idle, we thought, why not try to overload the upgrade? And by overload, I mean using more parallel processors than we actually have CPUs in the system, because we could see that some of them were idle. So we bumped it up. We went from 32 parallel processors to 54 by using the catctl option. And we could then see on the lower graph a much better CPU utilization, and actually it knocked off 26 minutes of the upgrade runtime. So that's 12–15%-ish that you can gain by overloading the upgrade. How much can you overload? As always, in IT, the answer is that it depends.
42,
but if you have
42 is
42, 42. But this is interesting. You can potentially use more parallel processes than you have CPU, and then knock off some time on the upgrade duration. But then you have to monitor it.
Yeah, this is I think the coolest thing ever in AutoUpgrade. I mean, we showed you LSJ and status minus job, but it's much cooler than that. AutoUpgrade keeps every few seconds up to date state HTML file in its log directory. So the only thing is you pass this onto your browser, and then you lean back because AutoUpgrade shows you in the browser window, and it refreshes automatically the progress of the upgrades. So you don't even have to type LSJ anymore. It's just, you sit there, lean back, or take a nap, and then you're, yes, as Daniel showed you. So I like this a lot. You don't even have to start a simple Python server anymore. It's just happening automatically. This is really cool. And I think then we have no time left. So we have to be very, very fast with AutoUpgrade to a new server, which basically means on the source, we run analyze as we showed, but also fix-ups. And then we move the database over to the target server, and there we run upgrade, and it does the upgrade and the post-upgrade steps. So when you map this to config files, very simple. And the key thing is really on your source server, you may not have the target home, and on your target server, you may not have the source home. And the tool expects both parameters. So you basically put placeholder paths into target home on the source and source home on the target server. On the target server, it's easier with /tmp because this is not an Oracle home. And then you move to the new server. You can do this also with a standby if you want to, then you save the copy time for copying everything over. And then Daniel, will you quickly rush through unplug plug upgrade, or should we skip that?
No, it's a super cool feature. I want to mention this. It's coming soon not to a theater near you, but to AutoUpgrade near you. It'll be possible to use AutoUpgrade to upgrade PDBs using unplug plug upgrades, but using refreshable clone PDBs. Let me explain. On your source database, you create a common user and you grant privileges to that common user. Create session, create pluggable database, and select any catalog. This is where your PDB is now, the PDB that you want to upgrade. It is in the source container database. In the target container database, running on a higher version, you create a database link that points back to the PDB in the lower release source container database, a regular database link, and you connect using the common user that we just created. Then you create an AutoUpgrade config file. The first 5 lines, that is for a traditional unplug plug upgrade, where we take out a PDB and put it into another CDB and then upgrade it. But the cool thing here is the last line, source DB link, and then you specify the name of the database link that you just created, the database link that points back to the source PDB in the lower release. And then you give it a number. This is the refresh rate in seconds. 600 seconds, that's every 10th minute. What will happen is that AutoUpgrade will create a copy of the PDB while the PDB is still online. Users can use the source PDB, there is no downtime. And then using refreshable clone PDBs, redo a send to the target PDB, which hasn't been upgraded yet. It's sent over there every 10th minute. And when it's time to do the upgrade, AutoUpgrade will do a final synchronization, take the latest changes from the redo, put it onto the target PDB, upgrade it using an unplug upgrade, and then open that target PDB so it can be used. So you can take a remote PDB, clone it to a higher release container database, keep it in sync, no downtime, only downtime when you do the upgrade. And AutoUpgrade uses the parallel options that come with the create pluggable database statement. So it should happen very fast as well. So it's coming very soon. Unplug plug upgrades will be even easier and faster than they are today. And yeah, we don't have to talk about time to talk about GI. So that'll have to wait for when we come back next year. I think that we are then here. That was it. Sorry for running a little over time, but yeah, we could speak for hours if you would allow us.
And we have one question, a Q&A, which I quickly will answer because I read it before about the EBS case and very, I would say, performance effects from the negative side on all underscore objects. AutoUpgrade can't do anything here in this case. It may depend a lot on fixed objects stats. So we saw in the past already effects with missing fixed object stats or outdated fixed object stats, especially on dictionary objects. It may have to do also with the multi-tenant architecture in that case, because when you move up to 19C, your EBS database must become a single tenant. We can't do that because the EBS group has their own ways of generating its statistics for EBS, and they keep their hands on it. So you please need to deal with the EBS team via support. The second question, how about from 12.102 to 19C, please? That can be done with AutoUpgrade, of course. If that is the question, as Daniel showed before, so 12.102 upgrades to 19C upgrades are fully supported. And actually a good number of customers do these days, if that is the question. Otherwise, please either raise your voice or type something a bit more. And we have a goodie for you at the very, very end, just 30 seconds.
Hello, Sarah Connor.
Pops. Oh. I thought you were dead.
No, just upgraded.
With DBUA?
No, AutoUpgrade.
Well, that means there's only one thing left to do.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks a lot. And I try to answer the final questions here. Okay. Thanks, everybody.